Good evening, and welcome to a special edition of the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly. And right there is. Introduce yourself.
You know who I am.
Okay, yes, that's the wife, that's Kat, and this is not an edition of Kat's Comics Corner, as you might have hoped, but this is in fact a review for Iron Man 3, which the both of us just came back from. So we both wanted to share some of our thoughts and feelings about this film.
Or lack of feelings.
And uh, I have to say, I watched part of Howler Mouse's review of this film. And when he said that it kind of wasn't very good, I was very, very skeptical about that. Because I know that he and I have disagreed before. Um, he The one thing I would disagree with him about is that he did state that they made Iron Man 3 campy. I would not go that far. This is not a great start for Phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is a very, very, very unauspicious start. Which is not to say it's entirely a bad film. Because, okay, here's what we have here. Now this is obviously Jon Favreau not hired to do Part 3. They brought in, I should say Robert Downey Jr. brought in Shane Black, who he worked on in the incredibly underrated and very, very excellent film Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Val Kilmer and Michelle Monaghan. Now, I love that film. I think it's great. It's been on HBO 24 hours a day for the last couple of, for like the last week. And so I think they just enjoyed their working relationship so much, and that was Shane Black's first directorial debut, because he's written, many of the films that we kind of grew up with. He wrote, I think his first kind of big film, his first big geek film was The Monster Squad in 1986 or 87. Then, and also in 87, you had Lethal Weapon. Of course, he acted in Predator. He went on to also write
Anyway.
other stuff. The Last Boy Scout is a big one for him. I love that movie. But anyway, so now we have this. And we have, of course, Gwyneth Paltrow returning as Pepper Potts. We have Jon Favreau returning as Happy Hogan. And we have the additions of Guy Pearce as Aldrich Killian, Rebecca Hall as Maya Hansen, both part, of course, of the Warren Ellis, Adi Granoff Extremis plot. And we also have, of course, Sir Ben Kingsley as the Mandarin.
Sort of.
And
I know.
We're trying to keep this spoiler free. Okay? So we basically have Tony. He has been spending. There's a voiceover in this film of his that leads to ultimately a post-credit sequence, which is hilariously funny, but it's not like a link to the next film like we had in Wave 1. So it's just more of a really cool throwback to what's already come. Of course, he's going to start doing this now. Anyway, we have our cat. We have a little cat DJ, little cat turntable scratching thing, and now he's going to do it. But anyway, he doesn't do it when we want him to. Of course, we don't want. Anyway, all right. So Tony has been experiencing, I would say, mild to severe anxiety since the events of New York. As he opens up, the film is about demons. Basically, it's not Demon in a Bottle. That's still kind of the second film, if we're going to kind of put a label to it. But, he's trying to... Anyway, it's... Basically, the film answers the questions. You probably read this in some reviews. I think I saw it quoted in Newsarama, where basically the film answers the question that Captain America posed to Tony Stark in the Avengers, which is, big man in a suit of armor, take that away, what are you? And here we have Tony Stark, for a large amount of the film, stripped of his armor, and he has to really think his way out of the predicaments that he finds himself in. Now, I haven't read Extremis in a while, so I do remember certain parts of that, and there are definitely elements of that, huge elements of that play into this film. Now, I know that you don't know anything about Extremis, and that's fine, because you don't really need to know a lot about it going in.
I sure don't tell you much going in.
And, basically, the film... First of all, I was really disappointed by the lack of Gwyneth Paltrow in this film. She seemed to be absent for almost the entire film.
She was absent. Her screen time was very minimal, and when I read the reviews or read about it, whatever, and read that she got to don the Iron Man suit, I thought that would be really cool. That she'd get to do some really cool stuff, and instead she was just...
Admittedly, she did get to do something really cool at the end.
Well, yeah, but... And I know I can't say much because I don't want to give this away, but there's something that happened, and then with her character, and then you find out it's the opposite, and it's just...
Right. For a second, did you ever buy that, though?
Yes, I did.
You did? I didn't for a second. I knew that they're not going to do that.
Well, I knew they weren't going to, but just watching it, and then just inexplicably, like I said, I can't say much without giving it away, but it was...
Well, anyway, the film is written in a way that does have... There are a lot of...
Just think of that scene in Misery. She's talking about the cereals that she went to.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not going to go there, but...
Oh. Yeah.
He didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car. It's kind of that type of a moment there.
Yes, it is.
Just, we'll leave it at that.
Admittedly, yes. And... So as an audience member, you feel a little bit cheated by the end. Here is... Now, the film, as I was saying, before I was rightfully interrupted, not wrongfully. Not wrongfully. You were making a good point. So I'm glad that you interrupted me. But the film is written much in the style that most of other Shane Black films are written. Because he did co-write this with Drew Pearce, who is a first-time screenwriter. I've never heard of him before.
And to Guy Pearce?
I don't think that they're related. No,
okay.
I don't think there's any relation. But the names are spelled the same. That doesn't make any difference.
Anyway,
so you have, basically, Killian and the Mandarin are the bad guys here, right? The film, like I said, is written in a very Shane Black style of writing. It is, it's very funny. It's very self-aware. Basically, here's the thing, and this is in relation to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, is that if you've seen that film, you see basically what he's done there is he subverts a lot of the kind of buddy cop action comedies, by adding all of these, unusual and just, like I said, slightly askew elements. And that's what I feel like he tried to do with this film, is that he tried to basically take the Iron Man franchise and kind of use its own tropes against it. So that when you do get these moments, it comes as a surprise. And it does, and sometimes it works, and sometimes, and more often than not, it doesn't. The film is about, I don't know, it's about 2.5 hours, close to
No.
close to 220. It felt like it was about 250 or almost 3 hours. There were times where I actually was there were 3 times where I thought to myself, "Don't check your watch, because this is going to get better." And then something happens that's cool, and then all of a sudden you're checking your watch again. Or you're thinking, or I was thinking about checking my watch again, but I said, no, I'm going to not check the watch, I'm going to stay with it, and just keep it going. But it just doesn't, I mean...
It fell flat. Essentially, it was a lot of style, very cool action, maybe a little too much action, but there was so many good directions it could have gone. It had the right ingredients, but it's let's abandon substance for explosions. And that's my biggest complaint. I mean, it could have gone, you've got him dealing with all these, he's not sleeping, he's, I don't know, going crazy or whatever. He's having these anxiety issues.
I have anxiety issues. That's not crazy.
Never said it was...
You just said going crazy.
No, I never said you were crazy, but he's just, I don't know.
I know, I'm having fun with it.
He's obsessed with his hobby or whatever.
Yes.
It's just, it could have gone so much that way, but... And then you have the Mandarin, which...
Stop, don't.
I'm not...
You're doing the, air quotes thing, so...
I do that. Deal with it. Anyway, but you have the Mandarin, and when it started out, you see it interrupting, every TV channel. It's interrupting. They've hacked the airwaves, and he gives these really...
Basically, Bin Laden-esque.
Bin Laden-esque speeches,
kind of,
yeah. And the way he spoke, I liked how he kind of spoke with America, and but and so you
You'll never see me coming.
Yes. And you have that, and just that idea in itself, just with the times we live in, it is.
It felt
scary.
like a sharp reflection. It
was a very sharp
like...
reflection. It's very scary, and so I just thought, this is really good. You've got all these things.
There are a lot of serious issues to deal with.
The personal demons that he's dealing with. You've got these, I guess, outside terror threats. And so it's at the beginning, it looks like it's so promising. Like this could be really, I don't know, really intense.
Right.
Really intense. What's the word? Cathartic? I don't know.
Something like that. Because basically
but halfway through the film, it just, this is just my opinion, would just take all that cool, intense stuff from the beginning, and it just, no, let's abandon it for special effects, for overbloated action.
I don't necessarily totally agree with that, but I will say that I think that you're right about a lot of it. Because basically the inciting incident here, of course, you have these explosions going off in different places around the world. When the Mandarin does these, super interruption addresses, he seems to be speaking directly to the President of the United States, who's played by Bill Sadler, who you will probably know.
Did he have any lines in the movie?
William Sadler? Sure.
Like what, 2 or 3?
The President's never a big player though in these kinds of films. I mean, the President in X2, X-Men United, he didn't have a whole lot of dialogue. So I mean, it's and then you have Miguel Ferrer as the Vice President, which is just a waste of a great actor, because he has nothing to do.
Well,
but like I said, he has nothing to do. I mean, he has something to do with it, but he has nothing to do.
He had something to do with it. Maybe I don't know.
But maybe. That was, again, it was something that was totally just glossed over. It was you see, okay, I mean, when you see the his reasoning for what he's doing. Okay, it's like, yeah, it makes sense, but still, it's like, can we get a little bit more, please?
Yeah, or maybe we're just used to watching too much 24.
That possibly, but because you have Tony again. You have this inciting incident where you have this explosion that goes off near the Chinese theater, and Happy is put in a coma because of this explosion. Basically, an extremis person exploded. And we see some really cool moments where Tony is actually investigating the crime. Is really, really neat. And I thought it was very clever because it does show how he thinks kind of outside the box, in the sense that, okay, well, I can use my technology to actually not just be Iron Man and just fly around and shoot things, but I can use it to kind of solve.
My complaint with that, though, when he's standing there and he's got his touch screen, whatever, it's a little too much. I know that it's an outlet.
I didn't feel
I know that whole touch screen. I know it is kind
the
of
holograms.
Yeah.
Not touch screen.
Whatever. And the whole idea, of course, right now it's still we know it's a fictional technology, but I think the whole thing where he's just moving his hands and he can reconstruct the whole crime scene in the room there, and I thought it was just a little too over the top.
No, see, I totally disagree with that. I thought that was actually one of my favorite parts of the film.
It was clever. I like it, but I just think it was a little
like they were kind of blowing their wad, like in a special effects way, just to show like the big science going on.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I mean, and then we get to this second act, which is just, we do get this kid, which is kind of fun, and that, admittedly, that was kind of fun, but that was, I didn't feel that the character of this kind of kid sidekick was a hindrance. I just felt it was like, that whole part of the act was like,
it was a little too much.
And there's this very shoehorned in action sequence in the second act where we get to see, okay, well, basically it's there to show, okay, well, Tony Stark can work with, things around him in this kind of MacGyver-esque fashion to get away from somebody who's trying to kill him, because it's another extremis agent. And then we do get kind of midway through the second act where we do get this big reveal in regards to the Mandarin, which is, both very clever and very disappointing.
Yeah.
Because it is like, this is the Mandarin. This is the classic.
This is the guy who is instilling fear in our hearts.
But more importantly, I mean, if you go back to the first film, you have the 10 rings. Okay, I mean that's the whole, the 10 rings, the terrorist organization that kidnapped him in the first place.
Right.
It's the 10 rings. The 10 rings referring to the 10 rings that the Mandarin wears on his hands. Now, this is in the comic book, and it's all alien technology. Now, I knew that they weren't going to go there with this film, but the place that they went to was totally off the map. They just basically decided, okay, we're not going, we're not going to stay true to the character at all. And this is, like I said, this is the character that literally everybody was saying, we need to see the Mandarin. We need to see the Mandarin. When are we going to get to see the Mandarin? And now we're finally seeing the Mandarin, and then, like I said, it's a huge reveal in regards to his character, and it, like I said, it's both clever and disappointing. And the clever moments kind of stay with you for a time, but I have a feeling that the disappointment is going to far outweigh how I felt about it when I first saw it. It was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool, but wait a second. So then it must be somebody else. Oh shit. I'm sorry. That disregard what I just said.
The jury will disregard the comments.
Yes. So and then we get to this third act. I haven't also mentioned Don Cheadle. as returning as James Rhodes, as War Machine, or in this film, he is the Iron Patriot. He also has very limited screen time. Here's the thing that I am personally kind of afraid of in this, that happened with this film, is that because it seems like Robert Downey Jr., he's kind of the star of the Marvel films so far. He's the big name. He's the big star. He's the perfect guy to play Tony Stark. We all know that. It's been proven. That he kind of usurped control here a little bit, and because it's like he obviously had a big a big role in choosing the director, and I think that he wanted this film, I think that he had a lot of input as to how he wanted this film to play out, because the original film was not supposed to be written at all by Shane Black. But then all of a sudden, he's got a co-screenwriting credit. So I have a feeling, kind of like Stallone.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, he had. Yeah.
Oh.
Shane Black had a co-writing credit. I have a feeling that, like Stallone does, when he feels that the films don't revolve enough around him, he will then either direct it himself or he will co-write the screenplay so that he can have more action that centers around his character. And that's what I felt happened here with Iron Man 3, is that so much of it is Tony Stark. There's, like I said, very little Pepper. There's very little Rhodey. It just felt very incomplete, yet being this big kind of, very bloated, in a sense, tale. Go.
Well, my thing with that, we all know who Tony Stark is. We know what he's about. We know he is an egomaniac. I don't know about egomaniac. He's got a ginormous ego.
Yes.
He's cocky. He's a little bit arrogant. We get it. We've seen that in the last.
A lot. Yeah.
We've seen that in the last film. We saw it in the film before that. We saw it in the Avengers. I thought in the beginning, strangely enough, I can't specify what scenes exactly, but we don't need to keep seeing that part of him overdeveloped again. We know who he is.
Well, I mean, to be fair, they did I felt that they kind of tried to ratchet that back by giving him this extra, trauma that he's dealing with. Mm-hmm. It's just that felt like it could have been its own film. Like, literally, that could, him dealing with this and then coming out on top by dealing with...
From all the superhero movies I've seen, they all have the quote-unquote moral of the story.
Right.
Usually it's more so in the origin films where, they learn to use their powers for good, not evil, and something...
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
They learn how to become a hero.
Yes. But there's, like I said, some kind of moral or some kind of point. But
and this film kind of lacked one.
This didn't have anything. It had no point. It started out, I hate to keep repeating myself, but it started out like...
energy, boom.
It started out like we've got something to say.
Yeah.
We've got something to show you. And then... that's
it,
gone.
It just goes off the rails.
Forget what we have to say. Look at all these flashy explosions.
Yeah, because we do ultimately get to this third act in which you've seen, obviously, the trailers, and you've seen, where all of the, because this is, the armor that we're really dealing with here is not really the Extremis armor. It's Mark 42, which kind of acts like the Extremis armor. And you have, so basically you have, that's the Mark 42. So, I mean, in the last, in the Avengers, we had the Mark 6 was the final suit that had, because Joss Whedon wanted to go old school, so he had the oval as opposed to the triangle. Yeah, that's the reason they went with the oval instead, because Joss wanted the old school look of Iron Man. And that worked great. And and he does have it here, but it does have more of like the more modern look to the Iron Man armor. And so what happened? So where is Mark 7? Or no, Mark 7 was the suit in the that one that shot out of the elevator and everything in the Avengers.
Oh,
that was the Mark 7.
Don't know.
So Mark 8 through 42. What are they? So I mean, basically, here in the final act, we are introduced to all of those.
And I thought that was just
it should have worked.
It was
a lot better.
It was silly, in my opinion. It's like all these Iron Man suits just come out of nowhere to do their own. It reminded me, I don't know, of the old school Power Rangers. It did.
Well, since I never watched a single episode of Power Rangers, I don't know that. So younger viewers, you may understand what she's talking about.
Oh, come on.
Because I never wasted my time with that Spectre-Man, Ultraman ripoff bullshit. Okay?
Oh, they had all these. Oh, I'm not going to explain the Power Rangers. Anyway.
I know. If you understood that reference, you will
and you've
understand.
seen the movie.
Just don't you don't have to explain it to me.
With the Megazord at the end and all that, just yeah.
Okay. So if you understood that, then you know what she's talking about. But yeah, I mean, it is very much kind of a Deus Ex Machina where, I mean, because Jarvis is flying all of these other armors. And, I mean, it does lead to some really interesting action, though. It leads to some interesting action beats as Tony is trying to get into one of these suits. It's kind of like, because it's this crane and, this whole, Roxxon is part of this. I mean, because,
Roxxon gas, like...
Well, that's comic book stuff, though. That's Marvel.
Oh,
I mean,
is it?
Roxxon, Roxxon was a very big player in the Marvel Universe. So
we were talking about ExxonMobil?
Yeah, I mean, because that's basically, that's the idea.
The parallel that could have, again, gone somewhere, but didn't.
But, I mean, but that's okay, because it doesn't need to, because Roxxon, again, is just, it's an Easter egg more for Marvel fans, like AIM, because we have the introduction of AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics here. And they are, huge villains in the Marvel Universe.
Oh, okay.
And, it's... and that went literally nowhere. It just bottomed out. I mean, it was like... I mean, at least fucking in Captain America, they had Hydra, and they used Hydra. I mean, Hydra was bad. I mean, it was, which is why still to this, to this day, Captain America, the First Avenger is my favorite of the solo adventure films. So, I mean, because, okay, just look at it. We have Iron Man, the first Iron Man, brilliant film, great film, incredibly, incredibly entertaining, incredibly well made. The Incredible Hulk, the Edward Norton one, I really enjoyed the hell out of that. I think that's still a really good film. Then you had Iron Man 2, which most people...
It's not bad.
Most people
it's not
have
great,
a thing
it's
against
not
it.
bad,
I understand that thing. It is a flawed film, but it doesn't... I can watch it, and I can still be entertained by it, because it's still really good. There are more parts of it that are really good than are really bad. And then you had, Thor and Cap in the same summer. You didn't quite so much like Thor.
No, it wasn't terrible, but essentially.
But you enjoy watching it again. I mean, it's a film that's on, then you watch it and you entertain it. And I love Thor. I think Thor is terrific. I, of course, think that Captain America is.
Captain
fantastic.
America was very, very good.
And then, the Avengers, and then that's king shit. You know, I mean, this it doesn't get any better than the Avengers. I mean, it's the greatest superhero movie ever made. I'm not counting
The Dark
Knight in that, because that's not a superhero film. That's a comic book film, and that's the greatest comic book movie. We've talked about this. You know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. But anyway, it's just that this. It's like it's like Shane Black. Literally, he had a dartboard with like 50 different ideas on it, and threw like 10 darts. And all the ones that whatever hit, those were the ideas that he wanted to fit in there, and some of them work really well. But then we get to this kind of this kind of almost Rube Goldberg-esque kind of finale here, where it is like it's things are swinging and moving, and it almost became like an open air video game at the end. That's really what I felt, is that it's like, well, he's jumping from this platform to that platform. It almost felt like Mario after a while. It's like, it's like, Rhodey and Tony are like, Mario and Luigi. And it is. And it just, there are, unfortunately,
see, now you've got me thinking of that scene, and I've got the Mario music going through my head now.
And so when
the
what moment I'm picturing when I think of that, right? You probably do. It's the one that we won't talk about. Or that's more like, that would be like the end of a level. It's like, well, the princess is in another castle. But
Gwyneth is in the other castle.
Yes, Pepper is in the other castle. Like I said, I mean, it doesn't have. And here's the thing: is that video games can be really, really significant as far as their storytelling capabilities are concerned. And if this. And this is more like, I don't know, it had no plot, really. That's the biggest problem with the film, is that there's no central focus.
No.
Is that, Tony comes out of Happy's, surgery, whatever, and he just wants revenge on the Mandarin because of what happened.
He makes this really ballsy statement.
And then there's actually a retaliatory strike, which, that's something that is very kind of glossed over as far as his kind of irresponsibility, because everybody knows where Tony Stark lives, so I guess it's not that hard. But when he kind of shouts out his address and basically paints a target on himself and ultimately Pepper, it's
Is the guy that stupid?
No,
I don't like to say that, because he's not stupid, obviously, but like that goes back to what I said before, how he is really arrogant and really cocky, and just to make that statement, here's my address, and it's like, come on,
right. And the other thing that doesn't connect, that to me was a big disconnect from Iron Man 2 and the Avengers was, okay, so what exactly is Tony doing now with the company? Because it seemed like, at least with Stark Tower, he's getting very involved in his company with Stark Industries, and it's Pepper running things. I have no problem with that. I like the idea of Pepper being in charge. But it just seemed like it was because she resigned at the end of Iron Man 2. She said she was going to stop. She said she was going to resign from being CEO of Stark Industries, and now she's suddenly back in charge. So that just seemed like it was, that they weren't working together at all. That Tony was just basically kind of like a slacker at home, hanging out, smoking a bong, and watching TV. Except instead of smoking a bong and watching TV, he's creating a shitload of Iron Man armor. So it was just him playing with his toys this whole time, but it was also a way that he was dealing with, again, this post-traumatic stress that he has from, the wormhole and everything like that, the nuke, and, there's all these, these issues that he has to deal with that we're supposed to understand are resolved by the end of the film.
One thing that I thought, and I, again, don't want to say too much, but...
Well, then don't make my mistake.
Shut up.
Don't talk too much.
No, but there's...
No, I'm kidding.
I think he was... There's some comment that's made, it's either the president or Pepper. You can't have both. And I'm like, we're not really going to do this, are we?
Yeah.
It's like, really, is he going to have to sit here and choose between one or the other?
But he didn't.
I know. And I got nervous when that came. Just when I heard that comment.
Right. And, it's... Again, it's like... basically, I think once it gets... So the beginning of the film is very strong. The first act is I think, really well done. And then it gets to kind of the... the destruction of the house in Malibu, which you all know is coming if you saw the fucking trailer.
Yeah.
So this is not spoiling anything. And then we get literally a transition into the second act. When you know it, if you decide to see it after listening to this, you'll know it. Again, I'm not saying that people shouldn't see it, but this is not going to be a repeat view. This is not going to be one of those things that I'm going to rush out on release day and buy. This will be the first Marvel film that I will not do that with. I don't see myself running out and buying the Blu-ray as soon as it comes out. I don't even know if I will get the Blu-ray.
Really?
Because...
Yes, you will.
I probably will. But just so that I can fast forward to the good parts, kind of like with what I did with when I got the Expendables 2. That's what I do, is I fast forward to the good parts, because when the good shit happens in Expendables 2, it's really good. I really like Expendables 2. It's a much better film than the first one.
Die
but
every minute you watch it.
You didn't even watch it.
I've seen the first one.
And that's a bad film, and we know that. But the second one is actually really fun.
Okay, anyway,
like Fast 5.
Oh, don't even
Like
go
I said,
there.
I mean, it's a fun film.
No.
It's actually really good. If you
Roid
sat down to
Rage,
watch...
It's the Roid Rage series.
Anyway.
Bite me.
So, any closing thoughts on this?
Yeah, essentially, to sum it up, it's big on style. It's really lacking in substance. That's honestly the way I can sum it up. I mean, we have the villain. You mentioned this on the way home. Do we have a motive for the villain being the villain?
Other than the film necessitating a villain,
it's like,
no, we really don't.
I'm here to be the bad guy. Why? We don't know. I don't know. Was it petty? What's the word? Because in the beginning,
yes.
me on the rooftop, like what?
Yeah.
So you're pissed off because...
I mean, obviously, whatever he did...
Because Tony ignored you? Like, what? So that's why you're on this
That's what it feels like.
Bent on destroying the world? Like, come on, this is... It just...
I mean,
it's lackluster.
At least in Iron Man 2, Justin Hammer, we know that he's trying to be Tony Stark. He idolizes Tony Stark and wants to be Tony Stark and ultimately wants to best Tony Stark.
Go on YouTube and look up Iron Man 2 honest trailer. It's funny.
It's pretty funny. I don't think it's terribly accurate, but I think that it is funny. There's sometimes I really don't like the honest trailers. Particularly the one for Skyfall is the worst. If you've seen that one, I really hate that. Oh, I hate it. It's really? So awful because I mean it's like it gives so much shit to the film that the film just doesn't deserve. Because Skyfall was fucking awesome. But anyway. And I don't mind it when they make fun. I don't mind it when they make fun of really good films. I mean, shit. You go on to riff tracks and you can get there's commentary tracks for Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Avengers. I mean, shit,
Oh,
it's all
God,
there,
the Avengers
and
one
it's
is good.
hilariously funny. But you know, sometimes the honest trailers just suck
Anyway.
because they make fun of it in a stupid way, which is what I thought of the Skyfall one more than anything. Because the biggest, anyway. So okay, so your final thoughts are essentially that how would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, or a scale of 1 to 5? That's how I rate everything. I split in half.
Well, we'll do 4. We'll like 4 is that because that's how all movies are rated, is scale of 1 to 4.
No, we do it on a scale of 5.
Well, I'm talking
this
when
is
you
my.
Oh, this is your universe.
This is the Shadow Gallery.
On
Bitches.
5.
I'm not talking to you.
Shut
You're not
up.
a bitch.
Shut up.
You are one of. You're not even one of my
yeah,
bitches.
yeah. Okay.
Because you don't watch my.
I do sometimes. What?
Nothing. I'm just laughing at myself because I'm
Okay.
stupid that way.
Okay, I'm not going there. Anyway, on a scale of 5,
Again, you could split stars.
I'm thinking probably 2, maybe 2.5. Because it's not terrible. I'm not saying this is an awful film that you should avoid, but it's okay. It could be so much better. So, 2, maybe 2.5.
I would have to say that this is a solid 2.5 out of 5. So it's, like I said, it's very middling because I think that this will ultimately be, it's already been a huge success. So we don't have to, and we'll see Tony Stark again. It even says so at the end of the credits. Even I think it's the end of the. I don't know if it was before the post-credit sequence or after the.
It was after the post-credit sequence. Go
That he
see
will
it.
return.
Go see it at least for the post-credit sequence.
Or I'm sure you'll be able to pull that up online if you really don't want to see it, because as we all know, the post-credit sequence for the first Iron Man was, the way that most of us saw the post-credit sequence for the first time, because all of us were too stupid to stay through to the end of the film and not see the post-credit sequence. But then we learned, didn't we? Yes, we did. Never to leave a Marvel film or a DC film early, at least, now. So
hey, at least it's got the standard Stan Lee cameo.
Yes.
So.
Um,
everybody applauded.
Yes. People love to see Stan the Man, and that's important. So, but yeah, I mean, so, as far as, big films of this summer, it's not, like I said, it's not a good way to start Marvel's cinematic universe phase 2. This is, this is the only one that I haven't actively liked on
I just left
just about every level.
I left just feeling underwhelmed. And feeling underwhelmed left me feeling kind of empty. Hell, even sad, because I had such high expectations going into this. I came home from work after a bad day. I was tired. I was not feeling well. So I had high hopes, and then I wasn't even going to go because I wasn't feeling, because I was just having a bad day. But no, I wanted to see it. I pushed myself through, and then left just with a little bit of emptiness.
Yeah, I mean, I actually felt angry.
Yeah,
I was mad. I was mad at the film.
Many bad words were said on the way home.
I was, because I was yelling at other drivers, but I was realizing that the anger wasn't so much because of the other people around me in the parking lot, was because I had just seen a film that I had been dying to see, and it really let me down. So next will be, of course, we have Star Trek Into Darkness. Again, I have faith, a great deal of faith in that film.
Benedict Cumberbatch looks delightfully evil.
Yes. I'm sure he'll be a great villain.
Yeah.
Whoever he turns out to be. I know his name is John Harrison, but there's all the sort of speculation of who he really is. Will he end up being Khan or whatever? But anyway, that's and then after that we have Man of Steel, of course, which I am very much looking forward to. I know that you're not.
I don't like
because
Superman.
you don't like Superman. And then and in between, we have Elysium, we have Pacific Rim. All of these big, sci-fi films I'm looking forward to. I haven't seen Oblivion yet. I'd like to see that soon. But these are all films that you don't care about, so it's hard for me to see films on my own.
Hey, we got Monsters, Inc. Monsters University.
But we're not going to talk about that. I'm not going to be talking to them about that.
Oh, maybe it'll be so good you'll want to.
Well, I'm sure it'll be terrific. But, Pixar has only kind of kicked me in the balls once. And that was with Cars 2.
Yeah.
Cars is fine. It's a perfectly fine film. It's just not great.
It's very much a child's film,
yes.
more than anything. Anyway.
And so, but, then later on, of course, we've got Thor, we've got A Dame to Kill For, Sin City 2, and...
That's all coming out this year?
That's coming out in October, yeah.
Oh.
And we've got... there's like there were like 6 trailers before the movie started. Of course, I've seen them all, with the exception of the last trailer that they showed, which was for The Lone Ranger, which is a film that just looks like so many shades of shit that I can't even begin to tell you. That looks awful.
It borders on
offensive. Honestly, it seems offensive.
Johnny Depp as Tonto.
Yeah, it just seems
they're walking a fine line.
And it's a line that I'm sure that they will cross at least once, because it's the people behind fucking Pirates of the Caribbean. So these are not subtle people. So anyway, we're done. Thank you for watching. Again, not being Kat's Comics Corner. Hopefully, I'll get her to read a fucking comic book again soon, and then we'll get to talk about that. But stay tuned for new comics, bitches, on Friday or on next Monday, and we'll talk about this week's comics then. So until then. Thank you again for watching. If you were listening to this on iTunes, thank you again for listening. If this is your first time here, subscribe. Unfortunately, it's not always like this. I would like there to be more.
If you're listening to it on iTunes, please, if you're doing the podcast thing, rate, review, comment, whatever.
If you can, I know nothing about Apple, so.
Oh no, you
She's the one. She's the Apple guru.
But yes, leave a 5-star rating and leave a good review if you're listening to this on iTunes.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the only one who's ever commented on it.
Really? You can comment on it?
Well, you can leave a review, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I showed you that.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Damien, that's for you, because I know that you listen to the podcast and not watch the video. So, anyway. But, again, thank you again for watching. This is James Donnelly and Kat. Words apparently just don't feel like escaping her mouth when...
It's late in the day. I'm tired.
Sorry. Thank you, honey, for doing this with me. And always remember to stay in the shadows. Good night, everybody.